Imagine yourself on a path illuminated by wisdom, where each step is an opportunity to learn. Now visualize that, along this path, there are invisible objects that can weigh down your journey. These are unwanted gifts which can manifest themselves in many ways. What could happen if we accepted something that does not belong to us? It would be like carrying a backpack full of rocks, making each step difficult. Have you ever stopped to think about what these things are that, when offered, can divert you from your true self? The Buddhist tradition teaches us that we should not accept everything that is given to us. Wisdom lies in discerning what truly serves us. But how do we identify those gifts that do not add value to our lives? Between illusions and truths, there is a subtle space that deserves our attention. In this video, we'll explore 9 things that should be rejected, no matter who offers them. Get ready to reflect on your own journey and discover how to free yourself from what doesn't belong to you. After all, true wealth lies in knowing what to take with you, not in accepting everything that comes your way. Unrealistic expectations. When it comes to expectations, it is common for people to get carried away by what others expect of them. Since childhood, we are bombarded with ideas of what we should be, how we should act, and what achievements are considered acceptable. However, it is crucial to recognize that these expectations often do not reflect what we truly want or what is best for us. Accepting other people's expectations can create a cycle of anxiety and frustration because when we are unable to meet these demands, we feel inadequate. Furthermore, it is important to understand that each person has their own path and that comparisons can be harmful. By submitting to imposed standards, you may end up moving away from your own goals and aspirations. This can lead to feelings of discontentment because instead of seeking your own path, you become a reflection of what others want you to be. This not only damages your self-esteem, but can also affect your mental health. On the other hand, being clear about your own expectations is a fundamental step towards self-knowledge. Ask yourself, what do I really want? What are my goals? By answering these questions, you begin to chart a path that is genuinely yours, free from the constraints of external expectations. This fosters a sense of freedom and authenticity, allowing you to live according to your own values. It is therefore necessary to cultivate the ability to discern which expectations are healthy and which should be rejected. One helpful practice is to constantly reflect on your motivations and desires. This way, you can protect yourself from external pressures. By doing so, you not only become more resilient, but you also open yourself up to new opportunities that are aligned with who you really are. Ultimately, by rejecting unrealistic expectations, you allow yourself to live a fuller, more satisfying life. Every step you take toward authenticity is a step toward your true self, and that in itself is an achievement worth celebrating. Destructive criticism. Criticism can be one of the biggest obstacles to personal and spiritual growth. It is natural that throughout life we will receive feedback, much of which can be constructive and helpful in our development. However, there is some criticism that does not contribute to our evolution and instead can be destructive and harmful. It is essential to learn to distinguish between criticism that is worthwhile and that which should be ignored. When you internalize destructive criticism, you run the risk of damaging your self-esteem and confidence. Often, this criticism comes from people who don't fully understand your journey or who are projecting their own insecurities onto you. The ability to discern what is truly relevant and helpful is one of the keys to maintaining balanced emotional health. Instead of feeling hurt by negative comments, ask yourself, does this criticism truly reflect who I am or what I strive for? Additionally, it's important to remember that how you respond to criticism is also a choice. Instead of letting negative words bring you down, you can choose to see them as opportunities for reflection. Ask yourself if there's any merit to the criticism and if it can be used for growth. But remember that you are not defined by the opinions of others. By building this resilience, you become stronger emotionally and less vulnerable to destructive attacks. Practicing self-affirmation can be a powerful tool in this process. By reaffirming your qualities, achievements, and values, you create a solid foundation that can withstand destructive criticism. When you're feeling doubtful, use this practice to remind yourself of who you really are and what you're capable of. This not only strengthens your self-esteem, but it also helps you create a clearer picture of who you are. Ultimately, by not internalizing destructive criticism, you open the door to true, authentic growth. The path to self-discovery and personal fulfillment is paved with the ability to shield yourself from external negativity. By doing so, you are empowered to build a life that resonates with your values and aspirations. Feeling of guilt. Guilt is a powerful emotion that can be difficult to deal with. We often feel guilty about things that are not really our responsibility. This feeling of guilt can arise from social expectations, family expectations, or even cultural norms that surround us. The important thing is to learn to differentiate between guilt that is legitimate and that which is externally imposed in order to preserve our emotional well-being. When we accept guilt that is not ours, we become prisoners of feelings that do not belong to us. This can affect not only our self-esteem, but also our relationships. By carrying this unnecessary emotional burden, we begin to act in ways that are not aligned with our true desires and values. It is essential to understand that many times the guilt we feel is a projection of other people's expectations of us. An effective way to deal with guilt is to practice self-reflection. Ask yourself, is this guilt really mine? Am I taking responsibility for something that is beyond my control? Often, by asking these questions, we can realize that guilt is a social construct that does not apply to our reality. By freeing ourselves from this burden, we reclaim our emotional space and our authenticity. Additionally, it's essential to establish healthy boundaries in our relationships. Oftentimes, people around us may try to guilt trip us into meeting their own needs. Learning to say no and prioritize what's best for us is a crucial step toward maintaining our emotional health. This doesn't mean being selfish, but rather taking care of ourselves so that we can be there for others in a healthy way. In short, avoiding accepting blame that is not yours is an act of self-love. By releasing this emotional burden, you allow yourself to live more lightly and authentically. This not only improves your well-being, but also favors healthier relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. Social obligations. Social obligations can be a heavy burden that many of us carry without realizing it. From birthday parties to family commitments, it's common to feel obligated to attend events that don't resonate with our values or interests. However, rejecting these obligations can be an act of self-awareness and authenticity. It's important to remember that you have the right to choose where you invest your time and energy. When we feel compelled to fulfill social obligations, we run the risk of losing our true selves. This can lead to emotional and mental exhaustion, as we are constantly molding ourselves to fit into others' expectations. By choosing to participate in events or commitments that truly matter to us, we are prioritizing our well-being and authenticity. One helpful practice is to reflect on your priorities. What is truly important to you? What activities bring you joy and fulfillment? By identifying these areas, you can begin to move away from obligations that don't resonate with your values. Not only does this foster a more authentic life, but it also strengthens your ability to connect with people who share similar interests. Additionally, communication is a powerful tool. Oftentimes, people around us may not understand why we choose not to participate in certain events. Explaining your reasons honestly and respectfully can help create a space of understanding and mutual respect. Refusing social obligations doesn't have to be seen as disinterest, but rather as a conscious choice to live in a way that is more aligned with who you are. Ultimately, by rejecting social obligations that don't resonate with your values, you make room for more meaningful and authentic experiences. This not only enriches your personal life, but also brings new meaning to the relationships you choose to cultivate. Authenticity, in this sense, is a path to a more fulfilling life. Excessive materialism. Excessive materialism is a common trap in contemporary society. Many people believe that possessing material goods is synonymous with success and happiness. This mindset can lead to an incessant pursuit of products and status, diverting focus from what really matters in life. By allowing ourselves to be carried away by this logic, it is possible to lose sight of the true purpose of existence, which is more related to personal growth and strengthening human relationships than to the accumulation of goods. The constant search for validation through objects can create an emotional void. When happiness is measured by the amount of things we own, we end up becoming dependent on external factors for our well-being. This dependence can result in dissatisfaction, as material objects no matter how desirable they may be, cannot fill emotional or spiritual voids. It is essential to reflect on what truly brings joy and meaning to life, and this is often rooted in experiences, relationships, and self-knowledge. Additionally, materialism can lead to harmful comparisons. In a world full of social media, it's easy to feel inferior when observing the seemingly perfect lives of others. These comparisons can fuel anxiety and dissatisfaction, leading to an endless cycle of consumption. To avoid these feelings, it's important to cultivate a mindset of gratitude and appreciation for the little things that bring happiness. Learning to appreciate what we already have can be a key step in breaking free from dependence on material goods. Financial education also plays a crucial role in overcoming excessive materialism. By understanding how to better manage your financial resources, you can focus on investments that really matter, such as life experiences, travel, and learning. This change in perspective can help create a more balanced and fulfilling life, where the value of things is not tied to their price, but rather to their contribution to our personal development. Finally, it's vital to remember that the true purpose of life lies not in what we own, but in the connections we make and the experiences we have. By redirecting our attention to what truly matters and adopting a more conscious approach to consumption, we can discover a deeper and more lasting happiness that transcends the limitations of materialism. Emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation is a subtle but extremely impactful phenomenon in interpersonal relationships. People around us often try to influence our feelings and decisions to suit their own needs. This can take many forms, such as criticism disguised as advice or emotional blackmail that causes guilt. The first step to protecting yourself from this type of manipulation is to recognize the signs and understand that you are not responsible for other people's emotions. One of the main challenges faced by those who are targets of emotional manipulation is the difficulty in establishing healthy boundaries. Often, the need to please others can lead to accepting behaviors that are not respectful or fair. It is crucial to learn to say no and to prioritize your own emotional well-being. When you allow others to manipulate your emotions, you run the risk of losing your own identity and feeling constantly indebted to those who demand more than you are willing to give. Self-assertion is a powerful tool for combating emotional manipulation. It involves the ability to recognize your own worth and express your needs clearly and assertively. By developing this skill, you become less vulnerable to manipulative tactics. Practicing self-assertion not only strengthens self-esteem, but also contributes to more balanced relationships where both parties feel heard and respected. Another effective strategy is to practice empathy, but with discernment. Being empathetic doesn't mean accepting everything someone else wants. Instead, it's about understanding someone else's feelings without allowing them to overwhelm your own emotions. By cultivating a balanced understanding, you can offer genuine support without becoming a target for manipulation. This creates a healthy space for emotional exchange, where everyone's needs can be considered without anyone feeling overwhelmed. Finally, it's a good practice to reflect on your relationships on a regular basis. Assessing how you feel about certain interactions can reveal patterns of manipulation that might not be immediately apparent. If you find that a relationship is draining you of energy or causing you distress, it may be time to consider making a change. Protecting your emotional health should be a priority, and that may mean distancing yourself from people who don't respect your boundaries. Empty promises. Empty promises are a painful part of human relationships. People often make promises they don't intend to keep, either because they lack commitment or simply don't recognize the importance of what they're promising. These broken promises can lead to disillusionment and loss of trust, becoming a source of emotional pain. Therefore, it's essential to learn to recognize and deal with these situations to preserve your inner peace. One practical approach to dealing with empty promises is to practice realistic expectations. By going into a situation with an open mind, you can avoid the disappointment that comes when promises are not kept. This doesn't mean you should become cynical or suspicious, but rather that you should be aware that not everyone has the same understanding of commitment. By adjusting your expectations, you can protect yourself from disappointment and maintain a healthier perspective. Additionally, it is important to cultivate clear and honest communication in relationships. By expressing your needs and expectations transparently, You increase the chances that others will commit to delivering on their promises. Promises are often made without a full understanding of what is being asked of them. Therefore, having open dialogues about what each person expects can help avoid misunderstandings and strengthen bonds between people. Another valuable strategy is to practice self-care. When you take the time to take care of yourself and prioritize your well-being, you become less dependent on others' promises for your happiness. This can include developing hobbies, building a strong support network, and pursuing activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. By becoming more emotionally self-sufficient, you will reduce the impact of empty promises on your life. Finally, it's worth reflecting on what empty promises can teach you about human nature. They can serve as a reminder of the importance of authenticity and commitment in relationships. By recognizing that not everyone is ready to deliver on their promises, you can develop a more compassionate and understanding approach toward others. This doesn't mean you should accept empty promises, but rather that you can cultivate a space where honesty and accountability are valued. Hasty judgments, snap judgments are a common trap that many people fall into, and it's essential to learn how to avoid them. These judgments often arise from superficial perceptions without any real knowledge of the situation or the person involved. When someone makes a judgment about you, it often reflects more on their own insecurities or prejudices than on who you really are. Recognizing this is an important step in protecting your self-esteem and integrity. People often feel pressured to fit into stereotypes or labels created by others. It can be tempting to accept these labels, especially when they come from authority figures or people we admire. However, giving into these judgments can lead to a life of dissatisfaction and disconnection from the true essence of who we are. Self-awareness is a powerful tool that allows us to resist these external impositions and live in accordance with our own values. An important aspect of rejecting snap judgments is understanding that each person has their own story and context. What may seem like a flaw or mistake from your perspective could be a vital part of someone else's journey. By adopting a broader, more empathetic perspective, you will not only free yourself from the burden of other people's judgments, but you will also cultivate an environment of acceptance and understanding around you. Furthermore, rejecting snap judgments is a way of asserting your authenticity. When you refuse to be defined by others, you begin to live a life that is more authentic and aligned with your beliefs and aspirations. This doesn't mean ignoring constructive criticism, but rather discerning which opinions are truly worthy of your attention and which are simply reflections of bias or misinformation. Ultimately, by developing this practice of not accepting hasty judgments, you become an example for others. Your courage in asserting yourself and valuing yourself can inspire those around you to do the same. In this way, you not only transform your own life, but you also contribute to a culture of acceptance and mutual respect. Unfounded fears. Unfounded fears are often the result of external expectations and pressures. We are often conditioned to fear situations, people, or outcomes that may not pose a real threat. These fears, imposed by others, can be paralyzing and prevent you from pursuing your true goals and passions. Recognizing that these fears are not yours is key to freeing yourself from these invisible chains. An effective way to deal with unfounded fears is to question their origin. Ask yourself, is this fear really mine, or was it taught to me? Often, realizing that these fears have no basis in your reality can be liberating. When you begin to separate what is yours from what is imposed on you, it becomes easier to face these fears and make decisions that are aligned with your true desires and values. Cultivating courage is another important step in overcoming unfounded fears. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the willingness to act in spite of it. Facing the fears that have been imposed on you can be a gradual process. Start with small steps, challenging yourself to step outside of your comfort zone. Each small success will build your confidence, and over time, you will realize that many of these fears are actually harmless. Practicing mindfulness can be a powerful ally in this process. By focusing on the present and observing your thoughts without judgment, you may realize that many of the fears that plague you are simply figments of your imagination. Meditation and other mindfulness techniques help create a mental space that allows you to observe these fears objectively without getting carried away by them. Ultimately, by rejecting unfounded fears, You open the door to new possibilities. A life free from limiting fears is a life full of opportunities and growth. You become more willing to explore new experiences, take risks, and live fully in alignment with what you truly desire and deserve. Conditions of love. The concept of love conditions is a delicate and profound topic that often creeps into interpersonal relationships. Loving someone conditionally means that acceptance and affection are tied to specific behaviors or actions. This can create a toxic environment where love becomes a bargaining chip and relationships are based on unspoken expectations. Recognizing this dynamic is crucial to fostering healthy, genuine relationships. True love should be unconditional. This does not mean that you should accept hurtful or abusive behavior, but rather that love should exist regardless of the other person's flaws or imperfections. When we love someone unconditionally, we accept their weaknesses and mistakes, just as we expect to be accepted in the same way. This exchange of mutual acceptance is the foundation of healthy, lasting relationships. Refusing to place conditions on love also involves a deep understanding of oneself. Often, the conditions we place on others are a reflection of our own insecurities. By working on our self-care and self-esteem, we can become more capable of loving and accepting others without judgment or demands. This personal transformation is essential to creating a space where love can flourish freely. It's important to note that love should not be confused with tolerating harmful behavior. Setting healthy boundaries is an essential part of any relationship. Loving unconditionally does not mean allowing someone else to harm you or themselves. At the same time, it's important to communicate your needs and expectations clearly and respectfully, allowing both parties to understand what is acceptable. Ultimately, cultivating relationships based on unconditional love enriches our lives in profound ways. These relationships give us the freedom to be who we truly are, without masks or fears of rejection. By rejecting conditions for love, you not only transform your own relationships, but you inspire others to do the same, creating an environment of genuine love and acceptance in your daily interactions. And so, as we reflect on these 9 things we should avoid receiving, we are invited to look within ourselves. Each of them brings valuable lessons about detachment, compassion, and self-care. But what about you? Which of these lessons resonate most with your personal journey? Remember that true wisdom lies in recognizing our limits and valuing what truly matters. By rejecting what does not serve us, we make room for inner peace and spiritual growth. Why not pause right now and think, what are you willing to let go of? And if you could share one of these lessons with someone you love, what would it be? This is an opportunity to spread wisdom and cultivate healthier relationships. Don't forget that Buddhist practice is a continuous path. Every step counts, every reflection matters. Why not write down your discoveries and revisit this content whenever you need a reminder? If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a comment. Let's explore more life-changing teachings together. The journey of wisdom never ends, and you are a part of it.